Let's talk about Game 5 of the NBA Finals, the last game of the NBA Finals. My original series prediction for this one was Denver in 6, closer to 5 than 7, and we ended up getting this in 5. And frankly, after Miami didn't win either of their home games, it became blatantly obvious to me that this Game 5 was going to be a loss for Miami. And that's not to say that they did not have some fight in this game, because if I'm not mistaken, they were leading for a majority of this game up until like somewhere in midway through the third quarter-ish. Denver finally took the lead. Actually, they got it tied at like 60 at one point, and then it felt like Denver could not score forever. Overall, scoring-wise, this was not a particularly good game for the Denver Nuggets. You got 28 efficient points from Nikola Jokic, but pretty much everybody else struggled. Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference in how the video performs in the YouTube algorithm. Also, this video is going to go live basically right before I'm going live with my editor and channel manager Rudy, as well as another great NBA YouTuber named Alex Hoops. So if you haven't checked out that podcast already, we're going to be live soon after this goes up, so I'd appreciate it if you tuned in. It's one of my favorite things that I do, and as someone who's been in podcasts for a long time, I think this is quite easily the best podcast I've ever been a part of by a country mile. I think we finally found the formula to make it good. But anywho, Michael Porter Jr. had 16 points, which is easily the most he's scored in these finals, but he also did it on 17 shot attempts, which frankly, the percentage that he shot was like 40%, which is higher than what he's been doing. So overall, this has been the best finals game for Michael Porter Jr. scoring-wise, even though that scoring was not all that excellent. Jamal Murray did not have a lot of points. Bruce Brown had like 10 points off of the bench. I think Christian Brown had like 7. Aaron Gordon had a couple of buckets, but for the most part, this was a very, very low scoring game for the Denver Nuggets. I believe they finished with 94 points, which is super low for them. But Miami scored 89, and that's the issue that Miami has ran into this entire series, is versus Boston, versus New York, versus Milwaukee. Those are teams that have offenses that can be great, absolutely, but also have enough hindrances in them in a postseason setting that you can keep them fairly low scoring. They had a lot of games where they kept Boston low scoring, a lot of games where they kept the Knicks low scoring, and plenty of games where they kept the Bucks low scoring. But a team like the Denver Nuggets, I think what is different about their offense is just that it is both capable of being complex and working very well because it's complex, and simple and working very well because it's simple. What I mean by that is the Nuggets can kind of go to their two-man game with Jamal and Jokic, and that generates good offense. It doesn't really matter what kind of scheme you play against them. It's going to result in good offense. Or you can have the stuff where they're swinging the ball around the perimeter a ton. There was that one play in the fourth quarter where the ball swung around from Jokic to the corner to Aaron Gordon to Michael Porter. No, I think Aaron, whatever. You get what I'm pointing. Pass that led to an open Jamal Murray 3. That's the sequence that I'm thinking of. Not to mention the elite playmaking of this team. Jamal Murray averaged 7 assists per game for this entire postseason. Nikola Jokic averaged just short of 10. So 17 assists per game combined between your two star players is pretty freaking phenomenal. And the way that they pass the ball is kind of infectious to the team at large, where everybody's looking for the extra pass. And if you have a bunch of shooting, a bunch of very good play finishers, and a bunch of good playmaking, that's just a really hard combination to stop. So for Miami, how they had gotten to this point was by being pretty good on offense and being excellent on defense. Said excellent defense just was not enough versus the Denver Nuggets. Even if you do slow them down to 94 points, then suddenly, you know, Miami's offense is struggling. It's just hard to score more points than Denver, and even in games where they do manage to slow them down, they still didn't manage to score more points than them. So yeah, Denver's offense is just not one that can be significantly slowed down by any defensive team, I don't think. Nikola Jokic is pretty much at this point, I would say, straight up impossible to defend one-on-one. But the unfortunate side effect of such a thing is that he can make the plays if you do decide to double him. There were a couple of plays in this game, one in particular that stands out to me, where Kyle Lowry kind of just snuck behind Jokic and stole the ball from him in the post. A few instances of stuff like that actually happened in this game, but that's like your best case scenario. Most of the time, Jokic is either going to get a shot that he likes, or he's going to find someone open for a shot that the team is happy with. And even if you have a very good defensive scheme, even if you run a zone as Miami did to potentially break up the natural flow of this offense, then they can just kind of go to that two-man game, and that flow is going to work regardless of what you play against them. It's just, they were just too damn good. It's not really Miami's fault. Obviously, Jimmy Butler, if he was Jimmy Butler from the first round of these playoffs in this series, then yeah, we'd be talking about something entirely different here. I think the series could have even gone to 7 in that case. But he shot 27% from the field in this game, and he was bad for pretty much the entire series. And he had a great stretch towards the end of this game where he scored like 13 straight points. I think 2 3-pointers. He got fouled on a 3-point attempt that was bullshit. And it really felt like there was a stretch in this game where it felt like, you know, the meme of Adam Silver made the call. There were definitely stretches in this game where it's like, all right, man, you guys are clearly trying to extend this, and it is blatant. But even with blatant like referees on Miami's side, Denver, after having a horrible first half, was only down like 4 or 5 points. I think maybe 7, whatever it was. Just kind of illustrates what this series was at large, because Denver had a disastrous first half. Miami, outside of Jimmy Butler, had a really good half. I'm pretty sure Bam Adebayo had like 15 points in the first half. And as a result, if one team's playing bad and one team's playing good, and the team that's playing bad is only down by less than 10 points, I mean, even going into the half knowing that Denver was down, I was of the utmost confidence that this was going to be a done deal, that Denver was going to close out this game. I even had a text exchange with Rudy because, contrary to popular belief, like the main channel video that I just uploaded about the Nuggets after Game 5 that I had ready to go after the buzzer, I mean, it finished uploading a minute after the game. Like, we were not way ahead of things on there. Maybe if I was more professional, we would be, but that wasn't the case. But he was essentially like, hey, are we sure this video has to go up? Miami might win. But I was like, no, there's just not a chance. Denver is winning this game, and they did exactly that. Miami put up a better fight in this game than they did in pretty much any other game in the series, other than Game 2, of course. And I also want to speak lastly to the discussion around this finals being boring. It's something that I touched briefly on in my in that main channel video that I previously mentioned, but I just don't agree. I understand, like, there were probably only 2 like very, very good finals games in this series, and 2 of those games were blowouts. But even then, 2 of those games that were the 2 games that were blowouts were close for like 3 quarters, maybe 3.5 for even some of them. Like, yeah, it's not exactly fun to have the game just have the lid blown off of it at the very end of the game, but at large there was entertaining basketball that I very, very much enjoyed watching for 80% of this final series out of 5 games, which, yeah, it's not the best, but if 80% is 4 total games worth of good hoops and then a game's worth of bad hoops mixed in there, I think that's a pretty good ratio. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and as I also said in that video that I uploaded yesterday, I just feel as though a lot of NBA fans, if there's not a really strong narrative to latch onto, if there's not some super interesting story going on, they lose interest in the actual basketball. It's like they need a plot to enjoy it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not judging that interest, because God knows I love the drama. I fucking adore that shit. It's probably one of my favorite things about the game too. But it almost feels like there's a large section of this fan base that might as well just be watching soap operas if that's all they care about. Like, you should still like good basketball. And for me, at least, for a majority of this series, it was good basketball, and I have very few complaints. And I think this is an example of, yeah, 5-game series doesn't mean there wasn't fun to be had. I had a lot of fun with this series, and a lot of good games came of it, and it's games that I'm gonna remember forever. Anyways, I thought it was entertaining. Maybe you didn't, but I did. And yeah, it's up to personal opinion. I'm not gonna dog on you for not enjoying it, but I feel like if you truly enjoy basketball, forget the narrative, forget the subtext, just good basketball, you should have enjoyed a large amount of this series. But yeah, that's it. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and goodbye.